All right. Good evening in the East and good afternoon in the West. My name is John Chaput, and I will be moderating today's session. Let me share a few housekeeping rules before we begin. All participants' microphones are and will continue to be disabled. If you have any questions, please enter them into the chat box on the right-hand side. I'll monitor the chat box throughout the presentation and will facilitate a Q&A afterwards. We want to get as many questions as possible, so don't be shy and don't hesitate. We'll get to as many of the questions as we can. We're recording this session, so we'll be able to share it afterwards. Welcome to CME's Managing Your Business Online Learning. As the voice of manufacturing, CME has been listening to your needs. Our new online learning program is a direct response to what manufacturers are asking for right now. This series is all about managing your business through the uncertainty created by COVID-19. This is the second of 17 one-hour online sessions which will run over the next couple of months. We will run 2 per week, and each session will run twice per day. The sessions in this series are called Uncertainty, cover specific topics that matter to our businesses. They target 3 focus areas: safety, leadership, and operational efficiency. Check out our website after the session to see which sessions can help you most. There should be something there for everyone. I'd like to give a short shout out to our session sponsors today, FCC, World Trade Center, and Peoples. They sure help us get this off the ground. The online services has 3 separate series. This one, the Uncertainty series, will be followed by 2 more, Recovery and Growth. You have several takeaways that will be sent to you after the session via email. They'll include a feedback survey, a presentation, the one you're about to see, and some useful links. As this session is being recorded, it will also be made available to all participants afterwards. So with that, and without further delay, I would like to introduce to you today's presenter, Steve Kavanagh. Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, ISED, works with Canadians in all areas of the economy and in all parts of the country to improve conditions for investment, enhance Canada's innovation performance, increase Canada's share of global trade, and building a fair, efficient, and competitive marketplace. As part of ISED Innovation, as part of ISED, Innovation Canada provides funding and expert advice with flagship programs such as Strategic Innovation Fund and Innovation Solutions Canada, and services like Accelerated Growth Service and Clean Growth Hub that are designed to help businesses innovate, create jobs, and grow Canada's economy. Steve Kavanagh is a Senior Innovation Advisor with Innovation Canada and has over 25 years of experience working in technology startups, large corporations in ICT and offshore oil, and the innovation nonprofit organization MyTax. Before joining Innovation Canada, Steve was the Director of Industry and Government Collaboration for a technology startup where he developed partnerships, facilitated innovation activities, and managed the company's government funding projects. We're happy and proud to have Stephen with us today, and I'll pass it over to him to walk you through today's presentation.
Thank you, John. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to CME members today in these challenging times. Just getting a little bit of echo there. Okay, I think we're good there now. Thank you. As John mentioned, I'm a Senior Innovation Advisor with Innovation Canada. I'm actually based in St. John's, Newfoundland, but I'm a part of a network of innovation advisors right across the country. So each province has a number of innovation advisors dedicated to the province. We have a twofold mandate, really, is basically to help any type of company navigate the full breadth of government programming and funding and services that are out there, both at a federal and provincial level, as well as John mentioned, the Accelerated Growth Service is a primary focus of ours in terms of we help to facilitate that with our core partners in the federal government. With that, I'm going to kind of move into our presentation here now. In terms of what we're going to cover today, just a little introduction to Innovation Canada, and in particular, the innovation.canada.ca platform. This will be a very important tool, I think, going forward for many companies, particularly in the situation we are in now with COVID-19, as well as when we look past the COVID-19 situation and looking at a path forward. We'll dive into some COVID-19 support tools and programs, just do a quick overview of some of the core ones that a lot of people know of right now, and introduce you to some new ones that have been at least announced over the last few weeks. Then we'll look at the path forward. So what's the world going to look like once we kind of come out of this pandemic in maybe 3 to 4 months from a corporate perspective? And how do we get the economy back on track to keep growing and hiring people and things of that nature? So we'll look at some tools and some programs that can possibly help you with that. And then finally, we'll just review some key takeaways from the presentation today. As I mentioned, I'm with Innovation Canada, so we actually come under Minister Navdeep Bains with ISET, and we develop funding to help clients innovate and scale. We create services to help Canadian businesses find all the ways government can help them grow. We serve all clients via our platform, our contact center, and national network of innovation advisors. Some of the programs and services that fall under Innovation Canada include the Innovative Solutions Canada program. That's where the government puts out challenges that companies can kind of put forward for prototypes. The Strategic Innovation Fund, a large-scale program that really helps kind of large-scale projects get financed from a government funding perspective. Innovation.canada.ca, the platform that we'll kind of delve into a little further. Clean Growth Hub, a kind of clearinghouse for all sorts of activities and programs that are happening within the federal government relative to clean growth technology. The 5 superclusters actually come under Innovation Canada, and in particular, InGen is of great interest, I'm sure, to the CME members from an advanced manufacturing perspective. BizPal for all your licensing and permitting needs right across the country. It's like a portal for that. And then Explore IP, which is another portal that will provide you access to all the Crown-owned intellectual property that's available for licensing. So in terms of support for your business, you can find COVID-19 specific support and hundreds of other programs and services, including funding, wage subsidies, tax credits, advice, and more, all in one place. And this is the innovation.canada.ca platform. I'm actually going to dive into a couple of scenarios here, one that's going to be specific to COVID-19 and one that'll be more general for, as we talked about, the path forward. So what are some COVID-19 support tools and programs? As mentioned, I'll just probably give a cursory overview of some of the programs that are quite well known, like the emergency wage subsidy, but introduce a few new ones as well. So the COVID-19 support. The Government of Canada has taken significant actions to support Canadians and businesses impacted by COVID-19. To find out more about Canada's response to COVID-19, please visit canada.ca/coronavirus. To find out what support measures could help your business, try out the interactive business benefits finder at innovationcanada.ca. So if we actually do go to the platform, this will be the landing page that you'll see. Up top in the left-hand corner, you will notice, as I circle here in red, there's actually a link to COVID-19 support programs. This will be a listing of all the support programs that are available. When I first did this probably a few days ago, there was 81 programs in the system. I think as of today, there's probably over 100 programs that are being listed there now. So this is constantly being updated with the latest information to provide to you, to give you a sense of what's out there that may be applicable to your company. So if we actually click on that link there, it'll take us to a listing of all the different programs. So as I said, when I did this, this was 81 results. So a lot of them are potentials that could be applicable to your company. However, there are a number of different provincial programs that are in there as well. So if you look to the right, you can actually be a little bit more refined in terms of what you're looking at there. So you can apply some filters in terms of your location from a province or territory perspective, as well as maybe some of the types of supports that you may be looking for. So maybe you're looking specifically for to keep your employees paid. So that will kind of refine the search for you. Another way to refine the search is if you actually go back to the landing page again and you go to the section called I'm looking for. There's a drop-down menu there where you can choose support due to COVID-19. And then for my business specifically, then you can choose a number of the different criteria that may be applicable to what you're looking for. So it really kind of helps kind of refine your search to what's applicable to your company. So from this, it basically provide you what we call your story. And with the great thing about the platform is that you can save and receive updates when available on the particular programs that are going to be suggested to you. So all you have to do is hit that save button, put in your email, it'll send you a link, and you can go back to the story anytime. So you don't have to type in this information over and over again. But the other interesting and really valuable part of this platform is that if there are any changes to the programs that had been suggested to you, first off, they'll actually be emailed to you. So if there's a change in terms of maybe there's a deadline that was extended, or maybe some changes, much like it's been happening with the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy in terms of the revenue, the decrease in revenue thresholds, those types of information will be sent to you. As well as another interesting aspect is that if there's a new program that's announced that may fit the criteria of your story, that will also be sent to you. So it's a good way to kind of keep on top of all the new programs that may be coming down the pipeline as we continue further into this situation. It really is a good tool to kind of help you kind of source this all out. So now I'm just going to cover a little bit of the different programs that are out there. Some of them you're going to be familiar with that probably you've already applied for and are looking at or are looking at right now. Some, like I said, are just been recently announced and still, we're still waiting for some details, but good to know and understand what could be coming down the pipe. So in terms of the one of the most important ones is the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. This temporary subsidy is to cover employees' wages between March 15th and June 6th of 2020. 75% of the first $58,700 per employee, or up to $847 a week, will be covered or will be supplied. From an eligibility perspective, it has to be a Canadian company or nonprofit or registered charity, and it has to have experienced a decrease in revenues by at least 15% between March 15th and April 11th, and 30% between April 12th and June 6th due to COVID-19. Now, one of the interesting things about this program that you may not realize is that if you're not familiar with the government stacking rules, so normally with any government funding program, you can only stack up to 75% of a total eligible cost. So as you notice, some of those, with this emergency wage subsidy, the $58,700 may not be what you're paying your employee. You could be paying them more. So there's opportunity to actually top up the wage subsidy with other government funding programs or using the targeted wage subsidy, which is about 10%, to kind of get up to a 75% of the total cost there. So definitely something to consider. Business Credit Availability Program, or BCAP. This was introduced as to help Canadian businesses obtain financing during the current period of significant uncertainty. You can support access to financing for Canadian businesses in all sectors and regions. And this program is basically being underwritten by Export Development Canada and the Business Development Bank of Canada, who provide direct lending and other types of financial support. For additional information on any of the BCAP programs, you should contact your primary lender where you have a pre-existing relationship. So basically, a lot of these programs under BCAP are actually being run through the commercial banks. They'll be the frontline workers on this that you will interact with. Available programs include the Canada Emergency Business Account, CEBA, the EDC Loan Guarantee for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, the BDC Co-Lending Program for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. We'll delve a little further into those now. Canada Emergency Business Account. So up to $40,000 in interest-free loans to small businesses and not-for-profit companies. You must have paid between $20,000 and $1.5 million in total payroll in 2019 to be eligible. If you repay the balance of the loan before December 31st, 2022, it will result in loan forgiveness of up to 25% or up to $10,000. If you're not able to pay it by that time, you will have a 3-year term and 5% interest rate to pay back. EDC Loan Guarantee. It provides credit and cash flow term loans to small and medium-sized enterprises. Canadian businesses in all sectors that are otherwise financially viable, revenue generating prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, are eligible to apply. That's an actually important aspect that for both the EDC and the BDC loans, that you will have to determine or prove that you're financially viable and revenue generating prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. It's an important criteria that will be looked at for sure. It will allow financial institutions to issue operating credit and cash flow term loans of up to $6.25 million to existing clients, with 80% guaranteed by EDC. This program is now available at most financial institutions. I know it's been a bit of a process getting it rolling at the financial institutions, but from what I understand, things are starting to kind of move now, and the banks are starting to kind of offer this program. BDC co-lending program provides term loans for operational and liquidity needs of businesses, which could include interest payments on existing debt. The program is available to businesses that were financially viable and revenue generating prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. Once again, a very important criteria that they're looking at. The program is designed in 3 segments to target support in different business sizes. Loans up to $312,500 to businesses with revenues of less than $1 million, up to $3.125 million for businesses with revenues between $1 million and $50 million, up to $6.25 million for businesses with revenues in excess of $50 million. Loans would be interest only for the first 12 months with a 10-year repayment period. Once again, this is available at the various commercial banks and credit unions. In addition to the BCAP programs, BDC does offer a number of different COVID-19 programs, as well as some very sector-specific ones for COVID-19 in the oil and gas, as well as their regular programming. This one is the BDC Support for Entrepreneurs Affected by COVID-19, and is a working capital loan of up to $2 million with flexible terms for a period of up to 6 months, as well as reduced rates on new eligible loans and other forms of industry-specific support. In terms of how it works is you basically have to work with your financial institution to have an assessment of your business situation, and they'll refer you to an account manager at BDC. But obviously, if you're already a BDC client, you just reach out directly to your account manager there. Once that assessment is done, BDC representatives will get in touch to review your situation. One of the new funds I wanted to touch on that, from what I've heard, probably tomorrow or probably early next week, the details to how this program will actually be running should be available. This is the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, and it's being managed by the Regional Development Agencies, or the RDAs. This is nearly $1 billion in support to affected businesses and communities. The fund will help to mitigate the financial pressure experienced by businesses and organizations to allow them to continue their operations, and most importantly, in paying their employees. It will support projects by businesses, organizations, and communities to prepare now for successful recovery. The initiative includes 2 components, of which $675 million will be to support regional economies, businesses, organizations, and communities in regions all across the country. $287 million will be to support the National Network of Community Future Development Corporations, which will specifically target small businesses and rural communities across the country. So these community future groups are usually in Atlantic Canada, they're known as the CBDCs, or the Community Business Development Corporations. But each region or each province probably has a number of different names and entities that would fall under this category that would be applicable to this funding. All of this is going to be administered through the 6 regional development agencies, or the RDAs. And I'll get a little further into the RDAs themselves and some of the other core programming that they have on a national basis further in the presentation. In terms of the enhanced work sharing, so this is a program that's been around for a while, but has been tweaked to ensure that it has a broader applicability for most Canadian companies now. Work sharing is a program that helps employers and employees avoid layoffs when there's a temporary decrease in business activity beyond the control of the employer. The program provides EI benefits to eligible employees who agree to reduce their normal working hours and share the available work while their employer recovers. Work sharing is an agreement between the employers, employees, and the Government of Canada. It basically allows employers to retain qualified and experienced workers and avoid recruiting and training new employees. It also allows employees to keep their jobs and maintain their work skills. In terms of eligibility, employers must be a year-round business in Canada for at least 1 year, be a private business or publicly held company, and at least have 2 employees in the work sharing unit. Eligibility has been extended to public corporations, as well as nonprofit employers experience a shortage of work due to reduction of business activity and or a reduction in revenue levels due to COVID-19. From an employee perspective, they must be year-round, permanent, full-time or part-time, and they are needed to carry out the day-to-day functions of the business, your core staff. They must be eligible to receive EI benefits and agree to reduce their normal working hours by the same percentage and to share the available work. This eligibility was extended as well that allows employees now considered essential to the recovery and viability of the business would be eligible to participate in work sharing. This would include technical employees engaged in product development or research and development, outside sales agents, and marketing agents. So basically, going from what was considered your core staff to trying to cover, if not all your employees, pretty much all of them. I just provided some information here of how to apply for the work sharing. So there's two forms that you'll require. One of them is actually a work sharing unit agreement that you'll have to kind of work through. Once you have that completed, those two forms completed, it's basically you need to send it, depending on what region you're in, to one of the 4 emails that are listed there. In terms of the context, I've actually provided some more context here with this program, as it can be probably a little bit more complex than a normal straightforward program. So it would probably be in your best interest to certainly touch base with Employment and Social Development Canada, ESDC, who are the leads for this program, in terms of any questions you may have regarding the program, just to provide you some guidance in terms of how to best put together your application. So there's a number of ways to contact them, either via the toll-free number or the email that's listed there. So that kind of covers just a few of the supports that are out there at high level. Now I want to kind of talk about what's the path forward going to be. You know, as we look out 3 to 4 to 6 months out, you know, we've all done a lot, and the government of Canada has certainly tried to stabilize the economy. But how do we make the economy thrive as we go forward? So obviously, there's probably going to be a number of things that are going to be happening in terms of potential stimulus budgets and things of that nature. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that and looking forward to that future. So we'll talk about a little bit about some of the core programs that are available, as well as what are some of the do's and don'ts that you need to kind of consider as you put together your proposals for this funding. Right from the get-go, I'll bring up the innovation.canada.ca platform again. It's going to be a great tool from this perspective as well in terms of the path forward to help you find the right programs and services for your business. So in this situation now, we're going to look at a different scenario where we're not looking for COVID-19 support. We're actually looking for other government support. So if you go to the I'm looking for section and go to the drop-down menu, you'll notice that you can kind of pull up the other government support for my business. And in this particular scenario, I just took a kind of an item where I was looking at being a small BC-based software development company that was specifically just looking for funding. So as we kind of go through there, we enter our information. It brings us to the next page. And then based on that, that will be my story. I will say that I will get the email link, and I will always have the reference to that particular story. So in terms of what it has sent back to me in terms of different programs that I should consider, it actually sends me back 16 results. Now it's only showing 4 of them here in the white boxes, but if you click the white box below that says more, that will give you the full listing of the programs. I've clicked on the financial support for technology innovations here, and it's given me a little bit more detail in terms of important things of what is the program about, what's the status, is it open status right now, are they accepting applications, or is it closed? Maybe it's based on a call for proposals. There's information there about the level of money that could be applied in terms of funding, as well as what some of the funding limits are. So once again, the whole idea of what the contribution rates could be. From there, you can actually, if you see the little yellow box there, rectangular box that's just to the right-hand corner there, I'll get the details. If you clicked on that link, that would actually take you to the actual website for the program. The program that we're actually looking at right there is the Industrial Research and Assistance Program, IRAP, of the NRC, which I'll delve into a little further in a few minutes. So now I want to kind of just draw your attention to some of the core services and funding programs that are available from a national perspective. They're part of our core programming and funding. So I wanted to mention the Accelerated Growth Service as being an innovation advisor. This is one of the core mandates that I'm involved with. This program helps growth-oriented Canadian businesses expand by helping them access the key government services. Innovation advisors, we use our network of contacts to help businesses find and take advantage of everything that government can do for them, such as financing, exporting, innovation, and business advice. From an eligibility perspective, it has been an incorporated Canadian company with year-over-year revenue growth, generating at least $5 million annually, and being able to demonstrate the capacity and willingness to grow. Important criteria that we'll evaluate include: are you going to be creating jobs? Will you be exporting globally? Are you growing fast? Are you promoting sustainability? And are you fostering innovation? Our core partners in this program are NRC IRAP, Global Affairs Canada, EDC, EDC, regional development agencies, the RDAs, and of course Innovation Canada. A lot of the projects that we do facilitate and manage, we actually have the different provincial departments as part of our AGS teams as well. So we have really strong relationships with the different provincial departments as part of the Accelerated Growth Program as well. In terms of Innovation Canada funding, I'm kind of pulling out 3 programs there that kind of do provide funding in the grand scheme of things. Innovative Solutions Canada, that provides up to $150,000 for proof of concept and up to $1 million for a prototype if you have your proof of concept approved for specific government challenges. So you may have seen probably a few weeks ago that ISC actually launched a number of challenges related to COVID-19. So development of new prototypes for proof of concepts for N95 masks, some of those types of different challenges that are quite important. But obviously, there's all sorts of challenges that the government has. So probably once a quarter, you may see 3 to 4 challenges come out that may be of interest to your company that you want to look at. I also want to kind of allude to the testing stream as part of ISC. This actually replaced what was the old Building Canada Innovation Program, or BCIP, very popular program that was run through Public Works. That's now been kind of brought under the Innovative Solutions Canada umbrella, and it's part, the name change, is a testing stream now. From some conversations I've had with some people at ISC, there potentially could be a BCIP-like call for proposals, maybe in the summer, once again, depending on where things are heading in terms of stimulus and things of that nature. So what I would suggest in terms of Innovative Solutions Canada is for you to go to the link that's provided here, and basically you can kind of register with them, both on the challenges and the testing stream. So when any updates are provided from the perspective of new challenges or the testing stream call for proposals gets launched, you will be notified. Another obviously good place to kind of work with this is through the platform itself. If Innovative Solutions Canada comes up as one of your options, and you save your story, it'll be the information that's provided to you when these challenges are launched. The Strategic Innovation Fund is a very significant fund that's usually kind of focused on funding large projects. Basically, there's a $10 million minimum funding request that's required of this program, of which usually contribution rates are anywhere from 35 to 40+%. So from that perspective, your project has to be fairly large. There's 5 streams that the Strategic Innovation Fund looks at in terms of R&D and commercialization, I should say, firm expansion and growth, investment attraction and reinvestment, collaborative technology development and demonstration, and national ecosystems. And finally, the Clean Growth Hub, even though it doesn't have funding specifically in the Clean Growth Hub, it's a whole of government focal point for clean technology, focused on supporting companies and projects, coordinating programs that may have funding, and tracking results across the federal government. So you can actually go to this link, sign up for their newsletter. And it also is a kind of a clearinghouse for all the different departments that may be doing program funding with clean technology. So a great way to kind of have one central location to kind of learn about what's happening with government funding or government developments with clean technology. Going back to, as we mentioned before, the regional development agencies, there's 6 of those RDAs right across the country. This is the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, Canada Economic Development for Quebec Regions, the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, the Federal Economic Development Initiative for Northern Ontario, and the Western Economic Diversification Canada. Basically, I kind of put that link there specifically to go to see the 6 different regional development agencies, as even though some of the programming is sort of standard across the country, there's some nuances that each RDA may have in terms of how they deliver the programming. So you want to make sure that you go to the RDA that's specific for your region. One of the core programs that they do have is called the Regional Economic Development through Innovation, or REGI, and might be sometimes known as Business Scale-Up and Productivity in some regions. It's basically there to assist high-growth firms to scale up and expand, support technology demonstration and the commercialization of new technologies, encourage the early adoption and adaptation of leading-edge technologies and processes to improve productivity, and increase business capacity to grow through market diversification and entry into global markets. As I mentioned, there could be some regional nuances there that you kind of want to look into. So, for example, one region I know, they only go through call for proposals with this program. Now, that may be changing based on the next few months in terms of if there's any stimulus package that comes. But other regions are more of a continuous intake. So once again, you want to go through your specific regional development agency to look at this program. It is repayable for the most part, but it's non-interest bearing. So great way to fund some of your projects that you may want to kind of look at kind of going forward to continue growth. The National Research Council is another very important partner in the national ecosystem for funding and innovation. Under the NRC, the Industrial Research Assistance Program, or IRAP, which probably many of you know, is their flagship program to cover IRAP-eligible activities. By that, I mean technical risk, basically. So they're looking to kind of help take and mitigate a lot of that risk that could be part of an R&D project that you might be doing, or from a manufacturing scenario. Maybe it's some new processes or technologies that you'd like to implement in your operation, but there is a technical risk to that, so they can come to look and assist with that. The IRAP program is usually about an 80% grant contribution, so non-repayable, to internal technical salaries and 50% to subcontractor costs. They also have a youth employment program that's very popular and very, very well subscribed. You can basically hire an individual from 15 to 30 years of age, post-secondary graduate. They had to be eligible to work in Canada, and they had to be legally entitled to work according to the relevant provincial legislation. They also had to be a first-time participant in the program. It's a quite good program in terms of it usually runs for about 6 months and basically can provide up to about 100% coverage depending on the salary. Contribution to organization is another great piece of service that the NRC can provide to companies. Funding is actually provided to third-party research organizations, so for example, post-secondary institution, to undertake small directed research projects for private sector companies. So if you're looking to have a very specific piece of research done in chemistry, or more from a manufacturing perspective, if you're looking to have a new prototype developed, basically they can kind of look to kind of help you kind of take those early initial leaps with no cost to the company itself. They also have great technical advisory services with their world-class infrastructure and network of researchers at NRC facilities right across the country. So that kind of just gives you a little snapshot of some of the core programs and services that, once again, as we kind of come out of the stabilization piece into more of, okay, how do we kind of get ourselves back on track? How do we get our companies back on track? How do we get the economy of Canada back on track? So you may want to start kind of thinking about, okay, what are the projects that I can kind of start looking at that may be good stuff to kind of help get us going and continue on our growth. So, to do that, you want to look at some of these national programs, use the tool, the innovation.canada.ca platform to kind of, see what kind of programming and services would be available to you to help with this. So as you kind of go through all those machinations, there's a couple of do's and don'ts that we're going to cover here now that you may want to take into consideration as you move forward. So in terms of government support, you want to make sure that you treat it like an investor. There will be extensive due diligence, just like an angel or a VC investor. The better prepared you are, the easier the process. Most programs want to see the same things: that you're incorporated with full-time employees, that you have an addressable market that you've engaged. Basically, they do want to see some market validity right now. They want to see a plan for growth with a workable business model. They want to see that you have competent staff in all management, technical, BD, and financial areas. If there are any gaps, what are their plan to hire where missing? And lastly, they want to see what the benefits to Canada are, or from a provincial perspective, if you're doing with a provincial department, they want to see what the benefits to the province potentially are. This will basically be, what's the return on investment for the government of Canada? So when you start to scope out, your plan, your project, you want to kind of make sure that you're touching on a lot of the elements that we'll describe here now. So from, these include industry description. What's the size of the industry? What are the number of sectors? What key customers and competitors are you looking at? Is there growth potential? Are there any regulations that are affecting the industry? Business description will include obviously products and services, any facilities or assets that you have, the management team, any growth plans that you might have. What are the opportunities? What would drive the adoption of your product and generate demand? Are you addressing a real need out in the market that will kind of cause you to have good success that you can execute on? Development and production plan. You will need to include timelines, milestones, and budgets for this. This is what the agencies are going to base your funding allocations off. So they want to kind of look at what the total costs that you have, what can they potentially do from an eligibility perspective, what are the contribution rates that they can apply for it. Commercialization. How do you plan to sell and generate revenue that's in your forecasts? How are you going to get to market? Financials. What are your forecasts, financial statements, the amount of funding required? You need to kind of lay that out there too. In terms of the forecast, you probably will need about a five-year forecast there to kind of look at. Benefits to Canada. So this is where you'll need to spell out what the benefits are derived from Canada providing the funding to you. So is it creation of jobs, development of export markets, or is there anything clean tech or green that may be applicable to your project? These are all important elements that they want to look at. Finally, what motivates government funders? So they want to see projects that align to the agency department's mandate or eligibility. They want to make sure that the company has investment to pay your part of the project. So usually, depending on the contribution rate, you're probably looking at the company covering 25 to 50% of the eligible costs. So when I say investment, that doesn't always necessarily have to be equity investment. If it's a more established company that has a good run rate business, you may be able to finance some of this through cash flow through operations. Don't make claims that you can't support. The upfront, honest approach works. You don't want to kind of have crazy, outrageous plans that really no one's going to fund. It really has to make sense, and that kind of comes back to approaching existing customers in the market that you're going to get some market validity from to really prove that there's a need in the market that you're going to address. Doesn't hurt to think of a project in holistic terms where potentially different agencies may have a role to play. If everyone can see the big picture, maybe more agencies can come in. This sort of helps the agencies that are first to the game as well, because that helps de-risk the project for those agencies. So the more that the risk can be spread around, the happier all parties will be. If you can't spend what was agreed to, please let the agency know as soon as possible so the money can be repurposed. This is especially important for agencies such as the NRC, where budgets are normally very tight and oversubscribed. So they manage their budgets very carefully, and we'll tie into the next bullet as well. But if there's opportunity where you're not going to spend, $50,000 or $100,000 in a fiscal year, the sooner you can let the agency know, that would be greatly appreciated on their part, as well as probably some companies that weren't able to get any funding at the time. That can kind of give them a little bit of bridge financing to get to the next fiscal. With a claiming model, which is all pretty much government funding, you want to make sure that you get your claims in on time. So depending on what is stated in your contribution agreement, you want to make sure that you're adherent to and compliant with what's there in the contribution agreement. As once again, you're working with NRC, they want you to have your claims in on a monthly basis. If you start missing those, there'll be some repercussions that could end up you having to lose some of the money that was kind of allocated to your project. So definitely something to keep in mind as you go forward. So that pretty much concludes the presentation. So I just kind of want to review some of the key takeaways that we sort of covered here today. I really do encourage you to leverage the platform to explore potential government funding programs and stay current with program updates. So that's the innovation.canada.ca platform. When you're working with program department, work with program departments, for example, CRA, particularly with the emergency wage subsidy, regarding specific COVID-19 support programs. And this is kind of revolving around, if you have some specific questions about the program, always best to go directly to the department. Things are changing so fast or so fluid that I would say on a constant daily basis, these agencies and the frontline workers are getting updates in terms of how the program is evolving. So you want to kind of go to the source to make sure that you're working with them. And basically, I know of a couple of companies here in St. John's that have had some great conversations with CRA people that were very specific to the company situation, and they had a better guidance in terms of how to apply for such things as the emergency wage subsidy. And also, too, I think you need to start planning for post-COVID. What opportunities and projects will you be pursuing? What kind of government agencies and what government agencies are you going to be lining up to kind of have conversations with in the next few months to potentially lever some of that government funding in 3 to 4 to 6 months down the road? Remember to treat government support like an investor. Have that information ready. Be prepared to tell that holistic story to the investor.
Thank you, Steve. That was extremely informative. And on your last slides there, prepare for post-COVID. That certainly sounds appealing to me. I'm sure we'll be happy to get through a few more weeks here and start adjusting to the new normal. So we have one question. I'll raise it with you in a second. I just want to remind anybody who has any questions, put them in the chat box there. We'll get to them. We certainly do have some time, and now's your chance. You don't get this opportunity too often to speak with such an expert. So, Steve, your first question is: will the 6-week use it or lose it work share rule be waived during CEWS so we can keep people at work 5 days per week?
It's an excellent question. I don't have an answer for that. But what I can suggest is, these are types of things that the government of Canada is trying to listen to. As I said to someone earlier today, the government of Canada tried to get a lot of these programs out as quickly as they could. They're evolving on a daily basis. So I would suggest, contacting probably ESDC, specifically on the work-share piece, and see what they have any information, as well as potentially CRA. Like I said, those are the best people to kind of speak to in terms of specifics of the program, particularly to what we're trying to do as employees of the government of Canada is not only try to provide information, but we're trying to take a lot of this feedback back and filtering it up through so that the powers that be that are deciding on how these programs are running, we understand they need to evolve, they need to be more fit for purpose. So any information that you can provide to these.
Very good, thank you. So a couple more questions came in. Your next one is about SMEs. There is some confusion as to whether companies can apply for both CERB and wage subsidy, that 75% portion. Can you clarify?
Once again, basically, my understanding is that you cannot apply for both at this particular time, from what I've read. But once again, I would suggest going direct to the source with the CRA on that, and that could be evolving as well. Like I said, we are taking those types of information pieces and feeding them back up. So if that's becoming a critical issue that's happening with a lot of companies, you probably will see that potentially.
And our last question here, unless another one pops up in the meantime, you had mentioned you believe the new COVID-19 RDA programs would be announced soon, and making reference to the $675 million allotment. Yes.
Yes. So as far as I understand, I was on a call yesterday with one of the senior COA people, and they mentioned that potentially either tomorrow or early next week, the details should be out. My understanding is it potentially could be a simple online application. I'm not sure in terms of the details of how it's being broken down in terms of how much funding is actually available per company. Once again, we're all waiting for the details on that. And basically to the effect of, I think they're hoping to have the full budget potentially expended by mid to early.
Great. Thanks again, Steve. It looks like that's it for questions, so I'll just do a bit of a wrap up. But I really wanted to thank you for being generous with your time and sharing your knowledge and helping manufacturers to work through this and hopefully grow as we come out the other side. Much appreciated. Thank you. And thanks. Also, thanks again to our sponsors, World Trade Center and FCC and Peoples are there for you. If you need support, be sure to look them up. And thanks to each and every one of you for not only joining today, but for giving us the feedback over the last few weeks, a couple of months, related to the scenarios and challenges you're faced with under COVID-19. It certainly helps us to design programs that are meaningful and helpful. Shortly, you'll receive an email with this PowerPoint presentation, which includes the useful links, a certificate for participation, and an evaluation form. Please fill it out and send it back to us. We're really listening, and your feedback's important. You'll also, as a reminder, get included in that email a link to this presentation, so you're able to go back and if you weren't clear on something or you missed something, go ahead and listen to it again. And then just wanted to announce that our next session is going to be next Tuesday. As mentioned earlier, we'll run each of these sessions twice per day to catch coast to coast. So next Tuesday, we'll run it at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the focus is safe material handling. Very interesting there to learn about the virus and how it impacts our material and the risks related to that. So check it out if you feel at all interested. Of course, space is limited in all these sessions, and they're quite popular, so be sure to sign up now so you can secure yourself a seat. And just really hope the best for everybody out there, both in your businesses and your health, and I appreciate your attendance. Stay safe and stay connected. Thank you.